Haikal. Thank you, UIA. Thank you, IIUM, for having me here today. I am delighted to be one of the speakers, okay, for this series. And I would say that this is, a sharing session between myself, okay, because although I'm a, lecturer or a professor or researcher, but I'm still just like you guys, still learning, still trying to be up there, increasing my H index for sure. And then, of course, trying to find some new ways to, make sure that the research is relevant, the betterment for the future society. Okay, so this is just sharing session. So although that Brother Haikal perfectly mentioned that we're gonna have for 15 minutes, about for Q&A. But if you have any questions or anything that you would like to, ask me and having any discussions with me, so feel free to do so. All right. Okay. So without further ado, so let's just go straight ahead with what I have here for the sharing session. Alrighty. Okay, so Brother Haikal already mentioned a little bit about me. So I'm here for the postgraduate research for a sustainable research. I actually mentioned this to a couple of my coworkers and colleagues about the initiatives of International Institute of Islamic Malaysia. In terms of to make sure that even the postgraduate students are capable of coming up with very good sustainable research. Again, this is a very good opportunity, and I believe that even as the lecturers or the researchers, are able to get some of the information from these sharing sessions as well. So again, a little bit about myself. Brother Haikal also explained to you about me. I am also a psychologist, organizational psychologist to be exact. Maybe some of you guys are in the Department of Psychology too. I know that IIUM has a very good psychology program there. I was there for a couple of times and enjoying delicious international foods, the kebab and all. I wish I had the time still there. I am also a deputy chair for sexual harassment core committee member in UPSI. I'm also a deputy chair in human research ethics committee. So that this is also one of the key area that when you're thinking about to make sure that you have a very impactful research and are able to sustain well, you gotta make sure to follow the ethical principles, ethical adherence, because most of the times I can see that when people, it doesn't matter whether researchers or postgraduate students or even lecturers, when they try very hard to make sure that their research is very meaningful and of course have great fundings, sometimes they can be forgotten that there are also other parts that they need to be fulfilled, okay, which is the human ethics or ethics in general. Okay. At the same time, I'm also the chief editor for Journal of Research Policy and Practice of Teachers and Teacher Education in UPSI. So just a little bit promotion about myself, especially the chief editor. So if any, of you postgraduate students at IIUM that would like to publish your paper, so please, by all means, you can come and try to submit your papers to my journal. Wow, to my journal, to this journal. Okay. And I'm also a certified disability manager professional. I will also mention about this as well. This is also related with the sustainability research. One of the things that people can do to make sure that the research is very meaningful, impactful, and has a great contribution to the society is that when you try to include all this important area that you have to address to, right? And of course, my academic degree, I received my bachelor degree in University of Malaysia, Sarawak. I can see that some of you are international students. I don't know whether you are familiar with Sarawak or even the University of Malaysia, Sarawak. I had my master's degree in the US and then my doctoral degree in Germany. Right, so I came back here in 2016, and I've been a lecturer ever since in UPSI. All right. Okay, so this is like the agenda for today. Again, this is supposed to be like for me interactive session. So feel free to ask me questions. Even I know for sure that I will also learn some a little bit about yourselves as well. The first one is that we want to understand about the concept of sustainability, and I know that maybe majority of you are very well informed about this, but I believe that I also need to emphasize about it more because our importance is that not only in terms of the research methodological part of it, but also in terms of how does the research are able to contribute, in terms of economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. Now, for myself, although my doctoral degree is Doctor of Natural Science, but I would consider myself as well in Malaysia. We call ourselves the psychologists as social science. Again, those of you who are in the psychology program or social science might know what this. But for example, when I was in Germany, it can also be considered as science too. So our focus is heavily towards the betterment for the society, the betterment for the community, and this is one of the reasons why I was very interested when the moderator brother Haikal here mentioning that his research is about AI and human science, right, brother Haikal?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so that is very interesting for me. And again, one of the things that I will mention throughout these slides is because nowadays people are talking about AI like everywhere. Okay, every time when I even have to look at the publication opportunities, then I will say that there are actually call for papers for AI in psychology, AI in detection of cyber bullies or cyber security. So everything needs to be with AI. Okay, so I mentioned this to one of my colleagues or my coworkers, and I said to her that because she's in the faculty of Meta in UPSI, those who are working with artificial intelligence or language programming and stuff, they are placed under the faculty of Meta. And then she's like, yeah, we know that we are all that, like everyone wants to be with us, but we have so many like on our plates already. But yeah, okay, so that would be about the sustainable research. And the second agenda is that sustain and impactful research. Now, I need you to have some like interactive sessions with me. You can just let me know what long-term impact do you envision for your research. As I mentioned earlier, when I told this to my coworkers that about the initiative or the things that IMU has been doing, is they are very much impressed. Okay, because I believe that some of us, even the supervisors, when they have students that are working on their research or their thesis, the emphasis is about, okay, when do you plan to graduate? Are you able to graduate on time? Like if you want to do this, can you finish it like for 3 years or 4 years, which is of course not much can be done, especially when you come about sustainability. Well, you can, let me correct myself, you can get it done, but then that will mean more work for you. All right, but again, more work for you will lead to the better sustainability. And then we're going to talk about the research sustainability challenges. We want to know what are the challenges, what stops us from, make sure that our research is impactful, again, to the economic, society, and also environmental fields. There are many challenges, but I also can suggest some of the strategies. Some of the strategies as well works well for me as a supervisor. And up until now, I do have two doctoral students. They completed their doctoral degrees. They are also from Indonesia. And then I have, I guess, three more doctoral students working under my supervision. I have two master students completed. One is working still under my supervision. So still many challenges, but these are some of the strategies that I believe maybe you can do it as well. No? All right. So when we talk about concept of sustainability, like I mentioned, so sustainability means producing knowledge and solutions that address long-term challenges, but with lasting impact. Okay, so these are the challenges that have been going on years and years. And if you guys are familiar with SDG, they also talk about this. Okay, for those of you who might be GRA, graduate research assistants, or students that are working with research, you can actually see when you want to apply for such funding, okay, they will actually ask you like this research is under what category, and climate change, public health are all the common prominent categories that are usually needed from the funders. They want to know that what can we do to help you, what research that we should give or pump our money to make sure that the research that will be produced gonna be impactful, right? So sustainable research not only generates meaningful results, because let's be real, any research, if the research methodology is done in the correct way, it can give like very good results, but also considers how findings can benefit society, inform policy, and encourage future studies that continue build on these objectives. Now, maybe some of you have been working on with papers as well, and you know that there is always a section of how does your research can help with future suggestions and things like that. So that will be taken care of by papers. But when you talk about informed policy, now of course we have to be realistic. It's not that easy to inform the policymakers to make such changes based from our results, based from our findings. But what can we do is that, when we publish our papers, somebody will pick them up and then says that, oh, these are the good things. We can actually have this for our policy. Like I know myself as an organizational psychologist, most of the recommendations that I gave is heavily relies on the policymakers, right? Okay, then the next question would be, what is sustainable research? Okay, so we want to know is how can we make sure that the research is sustainable, like I mentioned earlier. So the first one is the integration of sustainability principles. Okay, so you have to integrate principles of sustainability into its design, implementation, and dissemination. And when you want to develop that research questions that address pressing sustainability challenges such as social inequality and public health. Now, like what Brother Hakel told me when he mentioned that, he's working on artificial intelligence and human science, and I can already see that there must be like a very complex methodological that plays a role there. For us, like the social science fields, usually the methodological approaches not that as complex as the AI, I would say. I think the most complex things that we will do, like of course you guys can let me know as well what are the methodological approaches that you do, is that perhaps just using SAM, okay, or RASH model, and I will actually in fact mention to you or tell you about one of the I won't say AI, but somehow it is geared towards a system. It's more about machine learning, in which that it can gives you a real-time answers. Okay, so that would be it. So the research questions are really addressing the things that are needed. Okay, so what I'm sharing with you, this is not the finalized one, but these are the number of researches that have conducted and completed. The one that I'm still working on, there is one, but these are the things that I have completed. The first one is I'm working on with Malaysian firefighters. Okay, and I was looking at their mental health capacity. Okay, again, I will talk about it more, but this is one of the I would say big research that I am working on, and I produced quite a number of findings, okay, based from this research alone. The next one is selection and recruitment process among caregivers. Okay, so this is very much interesting. So this is the one that I have mentioned earlier, that what we did. This is, well, I plan to actually let you know later on, but I can actually mention to you now, is that for this, this is the combination of, for me, in my opinion, psychology with system. All right, maybe from the AI, maybe it's just about like machine learning. But what we want to do is that, you know, again, this is related with what I'm going to tell you later, is you need to find a very prominent research gap. Okay, like in Malaysia, for example, some of you who are Malaysians will agree with me, or maybe even, if you are the ones that actually, read papers or news, the emerging ones or maybe the current ones, then you can see that, oh, there is actually always an ongoing consistent problem in terms of caregivers. Okay, that it means that in Malaysia, people might find it very difficult to send their kids off to the caregivers for, day at nurseries or daycares, because, well, let's be real, some of these people, they do not have the competency, qualification to be caregivers. But the reasons why they are there, well, there are many reasons why. One of them is because that maybe the parents, they will not be able, they are working full time, and somebody need to take care of their kids. So what can they do? They can just, like, send them off to, any available caregivers, and easier for them. So why that I have this with me is that, as a psychologist, I should be able to, as organization psychologist, I would say, with many references or documentations, I should be able to, not come up, because we psychologists, we don't actually diagnose in such a way that, oh, we ask them to choose A, B, C, and D to work with them. No, we don't do that, but we screen them, and then we allow for the policymakers, or we allow for those people who would like to hire people to make that decision. Okay, from many referrals, right? So what do we do? Okay, we, let's say that you would like to be a caregiver at a specific daycare. All right, so what we aim is that that particular candidate have to sit for a test, and this test is called my screen. And when the candidate set for the test, and then the scorings will appear. All right, so the scorings is supposed to be a secret, but I'm just letting you know. But it's actually sort of like adapting from the existing questionnaires, like Big Five model or emotional intelligence model, or conflict management styles. But the scores that we produce is just, giving some not highlights, but give some ideas for the decision makers to, make informed decision whether to, hire or not hire that particular candidate. So why I'm sharing this in detail is that this is one of the research that I led, that showing how important it is to have, like, for example, like the content, which is the organizational psychologist, as well as a person that doing the system, because we are actually having this in a system, which I will show to you later, right? So that would be one of that, and this is also a very good and great example that I would mention, that solving problems of Malaysians, the future also, I hope, because, parents are working now, the mom, the dad, and this research was done, I think, at 2022, and but even up until now, people actually out there would like to purchase this system. Okay, just to show that they need this, but I don't really know what actually the status is. But yeah, just letting you know, this is the one of the impactful research, okay, that we conducted. Other than that, which I will explain later on more, is postnatal mental health screening instrument. This is also, I would say, more in terms of society, the community needed. You want to make sure that when you have that results, like this is the one that we have, the result that we have is actually helping, believe it or not, Malaysia, we do not have yet any instrument that measuring the females or the women mental health after they are giving birth. So we aim to have one instrument. I work this with IIUM with Dr. Roshaidai. I don't know whether you students know her, but I worked with her and her team, with UNIZA team, and also with USIM team, right? So this research was completed, and we hope that when we are able to publish the papers, we published about 2 papers from this research, but we hope that when we publish another paper that is psychometric parts of this instrument, then we're able to maybe sell it off. Okay, just want to show you how impactful it is. All right. So other than that, stress management capable, and also this assessment tool for return to work program. All these I will mention and talk about it later on more. All right. Now, when we talk about the integration of sustainability principles, right? So we cannot actually run away from inclusivity. Like our world, even like, I don't know, 10 or 20 years back, we are moving towards that. That means we have to understand that there is going to be a day that even in our workplace, okay, there will be people coming from different backgrounds, okay. Nowadays, of course, they do have, but what we need to understand more about disability people. For those of you who do not know, in Malaysia, I always have to check the time. I don't want to talk more. In Malaysia, that we are, especially the government agencies, they are moving towards at least 1% of disability peoples at the workplace, right? So are we ready to embrace the inclusivity at the workplace? So those are some of the hot topics that actually are in for Malaysia now, okay? And then of course the not discriminations, the inclusivity in terms of sex, religion, race, okay? I think Malaysia, we do have that a lot. So that considers that, but I think the disability in terms of the inclusivity are still quite new. Okay, so this is the example. Again, I'm sharing you this research, so you might have the idea. Perhaps some of you just about to start, okay, your research, or maybe you want to know, maybe you're in the way of the proposals, things like that. But for this, what I'm sharing with you now is the examples that I am working with Perkeso, SOCSO. Maybe some of you know this as well, especially those graduate students that are working. So you guys are insured or unit under SOCSO, right? So what we aim is that what we want to do, we want to develop an instrument, a screening instrument that helps those disabled employees or those that actually involved with accidents, at the workplace. So when they return to work, then they'll be able to work better because, not all organizations are ready for that. Not all organizations are inclusive friendly, right? So this is what we aim. Again, this is also related with one of the points that I will mention later on, in such a way that when you want to talk about society sustainability, you got to make sure that you go to the field. Like I always tell my coworkers that we as the researchers, we cannot actually work by our own selves or in silo. We have to look at the world out there. What are actually the main problems that we're going to help? All right. So this is one of the research that maybe can also give you some ideas about working with a community. Then the next one would be, what is sustainable research? Is focused on the long-term impact and not the short ones, okay? So you want to have the positive effects rather than short-term gains, and you want to ensure that your research can contribute to the policy, practice, and public awareness in your field. Again, I mentioned this as well. This is also related with research methodology. Now, I should have it in here, but I'm not sure whether do you realize this or not, but for us nowadays the trends are, whenever that they are not researchers in terms of the consultation, they want to make sure that, hey, is it going to be impactful or not long term? Okay, so we know that you done your research, okay, so this would be your short-term results or your short-term outputs, but how about the long-term impact? Okay, so usually nowadays, now that I'm giving you the tips if you want to go for finding funds, right? They will ask you, so how do you want to measure the effectiveness? How do you want to measure the long-term impact of the particular research? You want to make sure that the sustainability is there, right? So one of the ways to do that is that your research methodology, you want to make sure that they are surveys or they are sort of like designs, instrumentations are able to tap and address their three things: behaviors, cognitive, as well as affective after the 3 months or after the 6 months. Okay, so now that is the it thing. I can actually see it since last year, I guess, from at least from the funding of Ministry of Higher Education. Okay, so they need to know that, hey, if I'm gonna give you money, show it to us that it's gonna have a long-term impact. All right. So the third one is interdisciplinary approach, in which that this is, I also have mentioned, from various fields to address complex problems holistically. All right. So this is my screen that I mentioned earlier. In fact, you can type it on Google. All right. So this is my screen. So we're able to get this research done, like I mentioned to you. So what actually, again, the system will generate is that your personality, your mental health capacity, and then your emotional intelligence scores. But then again, have to use it. There is a disclaimer, though those psychologists will know, is that this is not supposed to be as a reference for you whether to hire or terminate that particular person, okay, or the candidate. But this is going to be useful for you just for the reference, okay? So again, there is a hope, like I mentioned, because this is still like a hot thing now. People are still, would like to buy the system. I do not know what actually the management has to say about it, but what I want to make sure is that this is one of the problems, a prominent one that needs to be addressed, because I can see that, right now, there is no solid solutions how to be able to rectify the problems in terms of, abusive behavior by the caregivers towards the children. So this is one of the way to address the issue. And number two is that, of course, you want to make sure that people that are taking care of your babies are, better candidates that have better or maybe fit qualities that match the needs of being a caregiver. All right. So yeah, so feel free to go ahead and then have a look up this. The next one, what is the sustainable research? Is community engagement empowerment. I mentioned this as well when I worked with Perkeso, with SOCSO. It's always involved engaging with communities. But what I mean by communities here is that not only like in terms of agencies, but maybe you want to work on with the orang asli, okay, or with those indigenous people at your country, not only in Malaysia, or maybe you want to make sure as well the community are those community that are in need, the inclusive community, for example. All right. So in this case, oops. Okay, so in this case, the community engagement that I have here is just giving you an example, the one that I'm working with the firefighters of Malaysia. I do not want to, if I mention about this, it's going to take a lot more time. But when you talk about this, firefighters is one of the enforcement team that is facing many challenges, right? Okay, besides the police and then the armies. But what I believe as an organization psychologist, we also need to look at how about their feelings, because they are working, at these hazardous, high risky jobs, right? So let's have a look about their mental health as well. Now, when we have this engagement, okay, people know us more. We make a very impactful research. We can give suggestions to the policy. In fact, there was a time that I had the opportunity to talk and discuss about the findings of my research. So I do not know. I mean, of course, they don't tell me whether those information are taken care of or are considered, are taken into contributions or considerations. But what I need you to know is that when you are doing any engagement with the community, please make use of it. Okay, maybe you're working with schools, or you're working with children's, or you're working with what else? Organizations like automobiles. So these are the societal contributions that you can do. All right. Ethical considerations. Now, this is like I mentioned way earlier. People, because well, as the deputy chair for the ethics committee in UPSI, I can see that whenever there are applications coming in and asking for ethics approval, sometimes not that much ethical going on. They have great research ideas. One of them, they would like to integrate, okay, studies fields, okay, between artificial intelligence. There we go, artificial intelligence and mental health. How they want to go about. Okay, so maybe first, I remember what I remember. What I remember is that this one candidate, he or she or the candidate would like to come up with a system, come up with an application, and then the system or the application, they would like to show and then display and have the, I think they call it user interface design, right? To the patients of mental health. That includes those are in depression, mood, those are in critical situations. Okay, so my question would be that, well, that's a great research. You want to come up with some applications that can help with the mental health problems, because let's be real, all right? So mental health is not gonna fade in this world, right? They're always, well, not something that we are proud of, but people have the tendency to have that problem, such as like physical health, right? But then the fact that you want to do that, okay, do you have the capacity, do you have the competency to go about it? Okay, are you able to administer it? Okay, so those are the things that the person needs to remember, or the candidate needs to remember. They need to remember. Well, as much that those are great research. I think you can also see, like, some of you who are very familiar with paper submission, right? Usually all these great journals, they will ask you on your ethics approval code. They want to make sure that when you do your research, you don't actually violate the ethical principles. Okay. And number 6 is the contribution to knowledge and policy statement. So I also mentioned this as well, about that you want to make sure that the knowledge, okay, you're able to deliver it to the policymakers, and then you want to make sure that maybe when it's disseminated effectively, people can gain a lot about it. Right? So this is the example. This is our OPSI Human Research Ethics. I'm doing some promotional here. This is me, the deputy chair, and for us, we are in a team of people with different expertise. Okay, so what we do usually, we just review ethics approval, human ethics application, and then we do it like maybe once a month, right? And I think, of course, UIA also has this one as well. That also, okay, I have to mention here that you want to make sure that you don't actually interfere, or you don't actually violate or do any harm to these vulnerable subjects, because you are so eager. Hey, let's help. We're gonna make a sustainability research by contributing with the community of indigenous people. But what you do not know is that are they able to understand the communications or the language that you use? And I'm not talking only in Malaysia, maybe in Indonesia as well, maybe in those other countries, right? How sure are you? Are they able to articulate, and understand your research ideas? Okay, that includes children, again, patients with mental health problems, the elderly people. What we need to understand is that, and what we need to understand and also realize and acknowledge is that people, when they reach 60 years and above, somehow science says that their cognitive capacity is declining. Maybe not rapidly, but it is declining, right? And that's why they are in a vulnerable subject. people diagnosed with disease, interventions. Again, we are very excited to do like sustainable to research. We want to make sure that we are able to perform, maybe symptoms or patients that have similar symptoms with COVID. So you just feel that, I can do this, I can do that. But then how sure are you that you're able to administer them very well, right? I still have some time. Okay, so these are disseminated. Now, this is the artificial intelligence, okay, that I mentioned earlier. So this artificial intelligence, you can see there are many of them. I actually got this from the internet. But what you can see, even in UPSI right now, we are highlighting the importance of cybersecurity. All right. So when it comes with integrity, because I am also working on a research about integrity, the integrity also concerns about the biosafety, no, the cybersecurity aspect, because they know cybersecurity can also play the roles in terms of money scams, things like that. All right. So these are the artificial intelligence things, and this is the cyber security that I mentioned. Okay, you can see the behavior analytics. At the moment, we are moving towards that. Okay, we wanna have a look more in terms of the cyber security. Okay, this is one of the things that I would also feel that the contribution to knowledge and policy development. This is about sexual harassment, and you can see that because we talk about sustainability, right? So again, when it comes with sexual harassment, that it's always going to be there, right? Maybe the figures would be declining or increasing for that particular year, but what you have to understand and know is if you're not doing it well, like our government has came up with some initiative, okay, in terms of preventing the disseminations of sexual harassment, okay. And for this, this is just like I believe coming from the policy as well, no, from the results of research as well, that how one of the cases under the tribunal has been released, and it takes like I think about like less than 6 months. Okay. Now, the next question would be why we want to have the sustainable research. Okay. The first one, like I mentioned, we want to make sure that we align with SDG. Okay. Those people there, the UNESCO, let me tell you, they want to make sure that those research that would like to get funding from them are in line with SDG. Okay. And then because of that, when you have that capacity to do so, then our postgraduate research students will have the empowerment for change. Okay, maybe back to your countries that you're able to perform better. Okay, the second one is building collaborative networks. I mentioned earlier, I give you some examples that I had research with the community engagement. You can have a look at a global perspective. For example, even if I can share with you some one of the important or interesting things that I'm looking forward to is that I'm going to Korea end of this month, and I'm also thinking of maybe coming up with a research collaboration with them in terms of the I would not say cyberbullies, but in terms of suicidal ideations among the K-pop idols, and why is that occurring. And I believe that that's one of the things that we can have a look in terms of the global perspective here. All right. The third one would be about career preparedness. One of the things that postgraduate students need to know is that, well, even researchers as well, is when you have the ability to make a very impactful, good research, you're actually one of a kind. People would want to have you because you have the competency that would be outstanding and a little bit different. Well, a little bit in terms of like different significantly from the others. Right. So yes, career preparedness is there, and because you already develop your skills. And the next one is innovation strategy and entrepreneurship. Now, as much that, well, I know me, for example, I don't really like innovation much, but it's all there. Like I mentioned, when I look at publications, articles, and I look at the competitions, they always want to have innovation here, innovation there, but I'm not that much creative. But I do know for sure that it's actually there. And these are some of the titles or themes or that I know of. For example, mental health interventions and community well-being, biodegradable plastics for environmental sustainability. I remember when I came back from Germany and I was like, oh, why in Malaysia they don't separate the plastics? In Germany, some of you might have been to Germany as well, that they always separate their waste. So they don't do it in here, and I was like, this is not going to be very good for our greens, right? Okay, so I do actually have a question to ask you. What long-term impact do you envision for your research? I actually even have it here too, but I think that's fine because we're kind of like running out of time. So you can do it later. But what we need to know and understand now is that what long-term impact like you feel that your research can do. Okay. So the next one would be, what are the ways to produce sustained and impactful research? Okay, because we know sustainability research already. We know what are the importance of that. We know how to look for one. What actually the benefits for us as a postgraduate students, right? So what are the ways then? Well, the first one, you got to choose the relevant topics, okay? I know some of my friends, lecturers out there, they just want to make sure that, okay, you, my postgraduate students, you're just going to do research that easy for you to graduate. 3 years, that's it. Okay? But when we talk about this, sustainability is not that. It can be easy, but at the same time, it has to be meaningful. Long-term impact. All right? The next one would be methodological rigor. All right. This is what I mentioned earlier, the complexity of it. You can always work with your statistics friends, or you can, like myself, I always have to, ask for my statistician friends, my statistician coworkers. I look for the complexity of research. But let's be real, there are some postgraduate students out there, and not all. They feel that because they're doing PhD, they want to make a difference. They need to have contributions. So what do? Well, they just, cherry picking whatever complex mathematical aspect or mathematical system that they can choose to make sure that, hey, this is the contributions. But that's not the case, okay? I will gonna make sure that you must have a specific reason why you chose that particular methodology, right? And again, the third one, I cannot emphasize this more in terms of the ethical consideration. Okay, 5 minutes more, Brother Haika, sikit je lagi. Ethical considerations. You want to make sure that whatever that you want to do, it has to be bounded by ethics principles, right? And if you are not sure now, how does it in UIA? I believe it's actually also the same thing, in which you need to publish your papers. They will make sure that, oh, this research is great. I like this research, but can we know, number one, do you have the consent from the community? That's number one. Number two, do you also have, for example, give them the informed consent, or make sure that you're complying with the ethical principles? And let me tell you, if you don't have that, as interesting or sustainable research that you have, they're not actually buying that, right? I know, because I'm also one of the chief editors too. Now, I'm actually sharing this with you. I would refrain myself from, giving any statements in particular, because this is under investigations. But I do know this is from IIUM as well. But this is one of the examples that students have to look what actually the gap, the main topic, or the trend right now that you need to address. I believe that this concept of humble bragging is not new. I know it, like, of course, many years before, but the fact that this author chose this particular person or influencer must be reasons why. Okay, so I'm not saying that I'm pros or against, okay, this influencer, but just saying that this is one of the examples of, I believe that is one of the topics that people would like to understand more, right? Okay, so, and then this is the examples of poor research gaps. Okay, I found this online, and I feel that this is very helpful. Usually when I ask about what would be your research gaps, because we want to make sure that your research is meaningful, right? And I have to tell you this, okay? This might came off as a surprise for you, but as a human ethics committee, we are also always like having a good discussion with other universities, ethics committee, right? Which makes sense. You're gonna, being friends with them, close with them, and then make sure that you always have the best practice. Now, what you want to know is that this one university, their ethics committee even told me that, Nurul, guess what? If we receive such application from postgraduate students specifically, or even any researchers that would like to do a research that is almost similar with the previous one, then we will say, why bother? Why you want to come up with that research when this has been done many times? What good that it will be, all right, with the respondents that you're gonna do. All right. So like this, what actually brings that back to me, because many of us students sometimes they say, oh, the reason why I'm doing this research because there's not much study has been done in Malaysia, for example, or maybe this is never specific topic has been looked before, or maybe this is not something on social media, but this is something actually on face to face, or maybe the access is outdated. No, that is very poor research gap. So what you need to know, you have to look, for many journals and articles. You have to look for more topics, and you want to make sure that it's going to be very impactful for the sustainability aspect. Okay. So what are the challenges? Okay, I'm gonna make sure that it's gonna skim very through quickly. Academic workload, some of you are actually working. Okay, so when you are working, so you might have your working times like maybe teaching. Okay, do you do teaching? Teaching, I know that back in Germany, the postgraduate students sometimes they are working as well, so they have some classes, okay, to teach. They also have to do their research, of course, and then they have to do the gradings for the students that they are working with. And number two, funding limitation. Some of you are lucky enough, you get funding, okay, because your supervisors has some huge grants money. Some of you have to be working by yourselves, and some of you, maybe the international students especially, you have to look for your own funding too. Now, when you talk about sustainability, you want to make sure that when you're playing or you're using the experimental designs and using labs, things like that. So those are the things that you need to consider, right? Access to data, okay, how able are you to get the access of the data? And then changing trends and relevance. Well, people are changing, not only people, but also the world. You got to keep up. Otherwise, if you're late, the trends will be gone. So before this, they are talking about maybe one device, and now it's like another device, so you got to keep up with the changing trends and the relevance. Okay, so the strategies. Okay, sikit lagi, Brother Haikal. You have to be very flexible. You have to adapt to the environment, the changes. You have to have great networking and collaborations, because you know why? Maybe, for example, like in my case, when I'm working with the firefighters of Malaysia, maybe in the future they have another important topic, and they would like me to do the research for their better environment. Okay, persistence and resilience. I know it's gonna be difficult, but it's actually there. Publishing high impact journals. Why? You want to also have receiving some of the good feedbacks, critiques, and comments. At the same time, when you want to do your literature review, you also have to look from the good journals as well. Okay, and please make use of artificial intelligence. Yes, I'm pretty sure that your lecturers or your supervisors must agree with me. You can use your ChatGPT, you can use your Jenny, your Grammarly, Quizball, and everything, but please use it wisely and ethically. I know that as one of the reviewer for human research ethics application, and I can find that, dude, this student is using ChatGPT. Okay, all right. So the takeaways is, must engage with professional organizations. If you are under psychological associations, go for that. The APA, for example, you make sure that you try to participate in conferences. You postgraduate students have the opportunity to do so. Go for that. And then, hang on, staying active on research platforms, LinkedIn, social media, for example, the good ones, of course. And then maintain relationship with mentors and collaborators. Those of you who are international students, even local students, please make use of your supervisors and people that you know. I know I'm quite not lucky enough for this because I didn't actually see the advantage of me keeping in touch with my previous supervisors, in which that I should be, because I was, in the US, I was in Germany, but I only, still keep in touch with the German supervisor, but not those in US. So is my loss. Yes, and then professional workshops or grant writing courses. So this is one of the workshops that I like. So you guys are here, so congratulations. And then subscribing to relevant journals, because you want to make sure that you always, get updated information. Okay, so then lastly, I just would like to say, if you want to make sure that you have a very sustainability research, you want to make sure the key is that three things. Okay, environmental research, societal sustainability, society sustainability, and economic sustainability. Now there are many ways of doing that. It doesn't really matter that whether you're maybe only on AI or science, but even like for society, like myself, we're working with the social communities, right? So there are also other things that we can contribute to make sure that we give and we deliver a long lasting impact for the community. Okay, so the research you conduct should not just solve problems for today, but create a legacy for tomorrow. All right. So with that, thank you, Brother Haikal, and I am sorry I take some times, but yeah, all to you. I'm opening up for questions and answers.
All right, thank you very much. It is very, very impressive presentation, Doctor. I learned a lot today from your experience, from skills, from your tips and tricks. It's very, very beneficial for us. So let's move to the Q&A. All right, whoa, we have several questions here. Wait, let me open the queue. All right, so for Sister Anissa, please, yeah, go ahead. You may unmute yourself.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Okay. I just have a simple question about the management. I mean, like how to sustain and maintain some of the research that can probably be the contribution is for the long term, but how to maintain and to manage with the community, especially for the something research that relate to the community. Yes.
Can you give me the example, like maybe just a little bit context so I can help you better with that?
Okay. For example, a project that like the research that related to the project deal with the rural area or kampong side area. So how to maintain and to sustain it for long term. But it's a good opportunity and is a good potential to be for the long term. But what is your maybe the suggestion, or maybe you can share some experience that can do for us that maybe we are new in that area, so maybe we can inspire by your story about how to maintain it and to sustain it. Yes.
Okay, so so I will try. I hope that I answer. I'm going to be answering your question. Just like what you would like to. Well, one of the research that I have is actually with the one that I sharing with you is with the firefighters, right? So for them, there are many ways or many things that I can look into, not only about their mental health. I was actually talking about their mental health, but once they got to know me more, they also would like my assistance in terms of their performance appraisal, and also in terms of their work related skills in terms of handling with customers. Okay, yes, they do have problems, but they do have some challenges in terms of communications with the public. So when you mentioned about sustain and maintain the research, I would assume that like you want to make sure that you keep up the momentum, right? That means like you want to make sure that yeah, and then maybe the findings and the decisions will be kept off. Well, for me, what I did is that I always have to look for opportunities, and I also would always like to, present my findings and also my decisions. Now, for us researchers, usually what can we do? We can just, do it at the conferences, and then maybe we're hoping that someone can pick them up. Let me give you one example, right? Okay, so I would also feel that it also needs like two people to tango. What does it mean is that there are also sometimes when the funders giving me money or budget, but they don't really care much in terms of sustainability. Okay, which means that we develop an instrument, and then they just feel that, okay, that's it. We don't really want to know more or sustain more. But for me, I want to do more. So that's why I always keep, looking up for projects that I can do to maybe sustain it, and also to extend the research. Okay, so when you talk about like maybe the differences between rural and also places, right? You have some policy makers about it, but then unfortunately, I don't think like the government will, not appreciate lah, but then take our all findings into account and feels that, okay, we need to change this. They actually have some findings, points, discussions that they need to think about and feels whether these are okay or not, and then do we need to make a change about it or not. So yeah, I think that actually works for me lah.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for the answer, for your insights. Yeah,
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, very interesting insights and good questions also. All right, is there any other questions? Here, you may.
Hello?
Oh, I think.
Oh.
Sorry, Doctor. I think Brother Haikal is freezing.
Okay. I thought it's actually on my side. Okay.
Brother Haikal, is it okay?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Just cut off just now. Right. So yes, can you hear me now? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for waiting, and apologize for the technical issue. Right. So is there any other questions? We still have time. It's very interesting sessions actually. Maybe if you want to just type in the chat box, you don't want to unmute yourself, it's okay. Or you want to unmute yourself and ask directly, is okay also. All right.
Yeah. They can also, like, maybe later on, if they are feeling shy, they can also email to me later. Yeah, don't worry about it.
Right, sure. All right, maybe they still think the question. So since we still have time, Doctor, maybe the question from me first, yeah, to ignite other to ask questions. Actually, we have until 3:45. Just now the organizer informed me, right? So alhamdulillah, we still have time. Right, yeah. From Brother Abu, Assalamu'alaikum W.B.T. My question is how we can integrate environmental sustainability into research design, particularly in project involving agrochemicals and pesticide biodegradation. Oh, it's fair science.
Yeah, I know. But this is actually a very good question, Abudin. But unfortunately, I'm not able to help you out more of this, particularly because this is very science for me. But this is a very good one. I can actually see that. You try to integrate environmental sustainability into research design. Oh, okay. Yeah, but the agrochemicals and pesticide biodegradation is not under my field. I'm so sorry about that.
All right. So yeah. All right. From Sister Lutfia Huda.
Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
May I know, is it if in the postgraduate, in my thesis, I'm focused in the one subject area, but actually it will be extend in the next, in the other field, for example, in the environment. But currently, I am measure the social. And then after the thesis already done, I will measure for example, the environmental impact. Is it possible to do something the different area for for the future? Thank you.
Okay, Mbak Lufthia, can I know you are from which program or from which department or school?
Okay.
I guess you say that, yeah.
Yeah, I am in the Islamic Economic School. So
Mm.
basically, because Islamic Economic have a lot area, right, to cover it in the under Islamic Economic, but to develop it, it should be one by one. I cannot to be something like, for example, Islamic Economic, I want to cover the environmental, make the for how to about the shock environmental to the Islamic economic, for example. I cannot do that if I not finish the impact of the, for example, the social impact. The first thing first. That because I use the new instrument in the Islamic economic, so at the first I propose to the new instrument to measure the environment, but because a lot of the suggestion on there, so I changed my topic to be how to measure the social impact. But after that, it will be any improvement to extend the current model to the environmental too. So is it possible if after PhD I'm attending the different field?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mbak Lutfia. Okay. So I believe that you are also from Indonesia?
Yes, correct.
Where in Indonesia you're from?
Tangerang, Jakarta.
Oh, Jakarta. Okay. I at the moment I have 3 students from Indonesia during my doctoral studies. Okay. So, Mbak Lucia, I'm trying to answer you the questions that you have now. Okay. Let me give this one first. Okay. This is actually from my experience, right? So I do have I witnessed or I noticed this one I would say candidate, PhD student. So she was having her Viva sessions, and what actually she proposed, well, not proposed lah, she's just about to have Viva, right? So her research is about artificial intelligence in terms of the usage of nursing. So of course, like all of us feels that maybe the student has the competency or has the degree in terms of artificial intelligence, but it turns out her master degree is actually in nursing. Okay, but the examiners were kind enough of mentioning that, oh, okay, so you are from nursing, but you want to do AI. I think it is quite hardworking of you. This can be done, but unfortunately, your arguments do not cover a lot in terms of the way of technicality should be done in terms of language and also language, the grammatical language or of the AI. So To cut the story short, yes, she passed her Viva, but they feel that it is difficult in terms of like she's still using her social science background to do her science background. Okay, so the way that the justifications, arguments needs to be rephrased, and she received about like moderate corrections. Now, coming back to your questions, right? Whether is it possible, maybe for example, from social, contributions to environmental, and this is can it be done after your PhD? The answer is definitely. All right, definitely. Why not? Okay, even you will change that, especially if you're a lecturer. Sometimes you can change a little bit of your research backgrounds or research expertise. Okay, maybe for example you know are focusing more in terms of the poverty area, okay, rather than only in an urban area. You can do that, but as long that it remains under your research area. So in your case, from social to environmental, that definitely can be done. But the way that you have to phrase it, the way that you have to justify it, the way that you have to do your line of thinking probably would be different. Okay, that's number one. And number two is actually that I'm not really sure, but I might, don't get your context clearly. But I feel that maybe what you also meant is that you're talking about the framework, right? So maybe the framework that you have now for your PhD is geared towards one contribution. Okay, in such kind of way, maybe you're also wondering, can it be also having contributions to other parts, right? So the answer is yes. You will notice this when you want to do your research submissions, right? The papers, right? Then you can see that, oh, actually they're asking you what actually your contributions, how do you want to sustain, and what kind of like SDG that you are actually looking up to. It does not only means that only one SDG, it can be more. So the answer to be for that is actually yes, but the way that how do you find it, how do you justify it, your line of thinking, okay, all that plays roles, okay? And especially when you talk about instrument, I really like that. Instrument, we need that as a very collectivistic country. Most of the instrumentations out there are actually from the Western parts, right? So when we do have the instruments like that is tailored towards collectivistic countries, so let's just go for that. I know that I do have one student that is doing on I think about incivility. Okay, so she has it in Indonesian context, so it's quite cited, highly cited. So highly citations also indicates of sustainability. That means people are reading your research, so they are very curious about your research and they want to do it, and then get some of the ideas from your papers. Okay, and then they would like to do research more about it using some idea that you have. Okay, I hope that answers the question, but.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
so much.
All right, interesting. And yeah, we still have more questions from Sister Suat. I would like to ask about the journals you mentioned earlier. Are they focused solely on psychology, or do they also cover other fields in education, such as leadership and management? Yeah.
Okay, yay, my promotional works. No, just kidding. Yes, they can do that, but the journal is actually heavily on education. All right, so maybe you if you want to focus on psychology, then it has to be psychology education. For example, maybe teachers' motivation or the curriculum, pedagogy in terms of satisfactions. Or when you talk about leadership and management, yes, because I'm organizational psychologist, we can also accept that. But you want to make sure that the leadership also in terms of education too, like educational management, or maybe about leadership in terms of a higher institution. So they always must be related with education. So you know that there is a match within that scope. Okay.
All right. Next from Sister Nur Aswani. Assalamualaikum, Doctor. Currently, I'm doing research on the information-seeking behavior of special education teachers in Malaysia. Basically, in Malaysia, data and research on disability quite limited. So my questions is on the research gap, how we can come out with a good gap for limited research and how this topic can be sustained in the future? Quite interesting.
Yeah, this is a very good question, Nur Aswani. So actually, I just completed one small research with Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang, okay? And it's about special education, inclusivity, okay? Yes, you are definitely correct lah, Aswani, betul. Okay, there is a limited research in terms of special education, not only teachers but also pedagogy, right, in Malaysia. So you're very much correct, okay? And this is why it makes it very interesting, is that when you also would like to see about the seeking behavior, right, of special education teachers. So usually, okay, this is something about research methodology, and I can relate this with my consultation. Okay, my consultation with in terms of sexual harassment. Okay, why I'm actually sharing this with you? Okay, the reason being because when there is limited research, sometimes because we still do not know, okay, or we don't have really much ideas about seeking behaviors in terms of special education teachers, we do not know. And this is why, okay, maybe I should actually mention this earlier, okay, there's of course differences between qualitative and quantitative, right? So usually students just choose qualitative or quantitative, whichever they want, but that is not the case. They have to make sure that it tallies or it gears towards their objectives. If the objectives are more in terms of exploration, then by all means, go ahead with qualitative. But when you want to do like determining some phenomenon, then the quantitative is good for that. Let me tell you one very good experience that I have. This particular student, okay, she is about she when she was in her Viva session, she's very smart, okay, and then she published one paper under Petanika UPM, very good journal, but she did mixed method. And you know what was the question that was given to her by the examiner? Why do you choose mixed method? Why? And she has to explain that. And then for me, that already calls for a major correction, right? But why I'm sharing this with you, because this is related with what you mentioned here, okay? There's a limited research. So usually for me, when there's a very much limited research, you cannot find the gap. Maybe you should actually sort of like maybe doing a survey first, or maybe having some of the questions and answers from the experts. Maybe you want to ask from teachers of that special educations, what do they think about special education first, so you have some ideas of going on. Now that doesn't mean to be qualitative. What it means is that it actually shows the research needs that you must have. Does it make sense to you? Because like they say that, oh yeah, we don't actually have much studies about seeking behaviors. Maybe the experts will say that. And that's the reason why that you feel, oh, okay, based from my FGD with some experts of special education teachers, okay, there is a need for that, the special seeking behavior, and this is the gap. All right. So usually people do that too, whether they're doing it by survey or doing it by, focus group discussion to find what actually the problems are in terms of special education teachers and their seeking behaviors. Or what you can always do is that you can always try to look at other, neighboring countries about their prominent teams that you can also take into consideration for your research. Okay. And before I forgot is the policy. The policy is very important. Okay. So please have a look at the policy of special education. We do have that under Jabatan Kementerian Malaysia, JKM, the JKM Malaysia. All right. So they have this about autism and then OKU. So you want to go that first and read it up, and then only you can do your triangulation. Okay, Nur Aswani. So good research. I'm all rooting here for you here. Okay.
All right, very good answer and interesting questions. And yeah, I think this is the last questions. We got this from Facebook, by the way, because we broadcast this in the Facebook also. One question from brother Imran from Kunming, China. Is sustainability is ideal to achieve? As in my experience, majority of the sustainable activities require a lot of money and costly, and usually its output and our end product is not worth of the costing, and usually costlier than the return of the investment. Like for example, brother put the example also, environmental friendly lamp price higher and require cost than normal lamp, and also planting on plants and vegetable to eat is more costly than buying industrial plant and vegetable. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so before we go to the question, yes, Nur Aswani, I'm disabled as well. Okay, that's very good. That means your A is actually accepting people, the disability people, right? So this is very good. Maybe I will actually, we're gonna keep in touch more because I'm also gonna do a lot more research about disability. So anyway, yes, very good question, Kunming from China. You are totally correct. As I mentioned on the slides, that the funding, okay, is also one of the contribution factors why we don't want to do, sustainability research. But bear in mind, when I mentioned about sustainability, there are three things that we need to understand. It can be either economic, it can be societal, and it can also be environmental, right? So for my case, for example, I'm more into social science here, so the contribution, sustainability in terms of society. Okay, what you need to know as well. Okay, so this is something that you can think about. Okay, you mentioned here the example would be environmental friendly lamp price is higher and require costlier than normal lamp. That is correct. But what you can do, there's always risk and benefit analysis. That would be the risk. That means like the higher price for that particular lamp. However, you need to also think about what are the importance of that friendly lamp price, a friendly lamp, environmental friendly lamp. Okay, maybe this actually gonna be more energy, less consumption of energy, and that it can be widely used by people from the rural areas. Maybe it can be designed in such a way. So there are other things that we need to think about. Similarly, when we talk about Tesla, for example, people might say, mahal lah, it's so expensive lah, why we cannot actually do it? Yes, it is expensive, but for those people that can afford it, for them, it's more environmental friendly. So they want to have that. Okay, they feel that it is needed, and they have like other sort of thinking that it can actually beneficial for other parts of it as well. One thing that we need to know, believe it or not, we are also in a danger of this climate change. Okay, so although I cannot afford Tesla, that's for sure, but I am with the peace person that is actually driving Tesla. All right, I hope that makes sense. By the Haikal and also Kunming. Good question.
Doctor, and with that questions, it is the last questions. And
Brother Haikal, sorry. One more thing, because I can see that he has another example here. Planting on plants and vegetable to eat is costlier. That is so correct. When I was in Germany, they sell like organic foods, and of course they're all expensive. But then for them, well, it doesn't matter. It's expensive, but we are healthier. We are actually eating organic foods, So yeah, so just a little bit sorry. I have to mention that. Okay, go ahead.
Well, the topic today is to our life. Very, very practical also. Thank you very much, Doctor, for your insight, knowledge, and expertise. As we wrap up today's sessions, again, we would like to extend our deepest appreciation to Associate Professor Dr. NURUL AIN HIDAYAH BINTI ABAS for time, knowledge, and expertise. Today's session on postgraduate research for a sustainable future has truly expanded understanding and given us practical insights for conducting impactful research and sustainability. I would like to thank everyone also, those who attend here, for your active participations. Your engagement has made this session a success, and we hope you leave with new ideas, fresh inspiration for your own research and better academic journey. And again, before we close this session, let's take a picture. All right, so you may open your camera. Okay, you may show your beautiful and handsome face, your beautiful smile, your good smile. Okay, all right, so let's take a picture. You may open your camera first. All right, our team will take the picture. Oh, there are quite a lot of participants. Very, very good. Nice. All right, I count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, next page. 1, 2, 3. All right, next page. 1, 2, 3. Okay, last. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you very much, Dr. NURUL AIN. Thank you very much, everyone who attend these sessions. Before we end, a quick reminder: stay connected with Center for Postgraduate Studies, CPS, for future sessions and updates. Thank you again for all of you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and have a great day.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Doctor.